Kia ora and welcome to week 2 of the Sustainability and Biculturalism course. We hope that you have enjoyed all the modules from week 1, and we also recognise that it can be pretty intense and it is a full-time workload. So giving a big shout out to you and the commitment that you're making to be here and to keep working through all of those modules. So we are here to just check in on week 1, maybe give a bit of an idea of where you might be at right now, and also introduce week 2.
And in week 1, we posed that question around self-reflection, that who am I? Setting a baseline of sorts really, isn't it, Sarah, of who am I, where do I stand on these topics and these tasks, where do I imagine myself to be? So sort of gathering those sort of thoughts.
And it could be that, or we're hoping that it started to crack open something inside of you or start to open up a bit of a can of worms. And so if you're feeling a little bit confused, or it's feeling a little bit unsettling, or you're starting to think, oh, holy moly, like who am I? And what is my identity? And how do I take practice in the world? And what is important to me? That's great. That's all okay. And it's really okay to be in the not knowing and be in the messiness of what tends to happen when we start to ask some really deep and honest questions about ourselves and who we are. So just know that buckle up your seatbelt and enjoy the ride, because it could be that it is reflective and confronting at times.
With last week, with asking that self-reflective question of who am I, that critique of where do I stand within this landscape, what are those meta-narratives that inform my identity and therefore my practice, whether that practice is a cultural practice or whether it's a practice that's a cultural practice that is undertaken in the environment and has impacts upon other living things or other places. So, you know, there's a nice tie-over with those two things. A cultural practice has an impact on our environment, on our place. When you've been asking yourselves those questions, are very important questions to be reflecting on, to be self-reflexive in, to ask those questions so you can position yourself in a place, understand your cultural construct and where that all comes from, have an idea of that meta-narrative that informs who you are, so that when you interact with other people, you've got that firm basis from which to act from.
Yeah, so knowing yourself in order to know others. And if we go back to that reflective, critical reflection, it was the what, the so what, and the now what. So we're really unpacking the what, which is us and who we are. And now we're starting to move into the so what. So what does that mean? And often what it means is that we are humans, which means we live in a society. We live with other people. And it's a basic human need that we need interaction, we need relationships, we need connection. And so knowing that about our psyches, it's really important how we relate and interact with other people. And so that's important from a basic human need perspective. It's important from a sustainability perspective in terms of, you know, you talk to anybody who's tried to get a sustainability project off the ground, and those relationships and the people who are on board are the absolute glue of the whole project. And from a cultural perspective.
Yep, exactly the same. You remember that first time we met online and we went through that process of Whakato, and I'm sure you've looked at the video to unpack why we were doing that, to understand where we are positioned within place that informs our identity, that therefore flows down into practice. But one of the big lessons from that is understanding self so we can make connections with others. And sometimes when we're starting to make those connections, we'll find that there is no apparent immediate connection. So a big question that we'll be asking this week is, how do we meet the needs of others if we've got a gap? If there's a disconnect, how do we find that connect?
Yeah.
Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, it is. And it's all, you know, this is really big picture stuff as well. That often has a lot of meaning and a lot of value to people, because the connection or disconnection that we experience in our lives really impacts our sense of belonging and our happiness, and that is that's really huge. That's really integral to being a thriving human being. So some of the things we're going to look at this week, we're going to look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We're going to look at a Blackfoot version of that. I'm going to start to look at systems thinking. And we'll be weaving all these different concepts into this overall picture of, okay, we started week 1 with the self, with the I. Week 2, we're moving into the us, you know, what is happening outside of me. And then week 3, we're going to go even bigger. But
Yeah. And you'll actually find that this week I'm going to be doing this quite a bit, and I'll unpack that in the videos. But essentially, that's all I've got. That's a
favourite move.
Yeah.
Great. So once again, thanks for being on this journey. We are now embarking on week 2, and we look forward to seeing you in the further modules and online.